Hi, this is Brett Atterbury from Pro-Life Magazine, and today I'm very honored to have with me Janet Morana. We will be talking about her new book entitled Recoil Abortion, Ending the Abortion Industry's Exploitation of Women. To give a little background on Janet, she serves as the Executive Director of Priests for Life and as the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, the world's largest mobilization of women and men who have lost children to abortion. Since 1989, Janet has held various local and national leadership roles in the pro-life movement. She has assisted Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life, since his ordination in 1988. She has traveled extensively throughout the country and the world, giving pro-life training seminars for clergy and laity, including at pontifical universities in Rome, and representing Priests for Life at national and international pro-life conferences. She has helped coordinate relationships between pro-life organizations and the Vatican, as well as with the White House. She is featured on Father Pavone's Defending Life television series on EWTN. She's the co-host and producer of the Gospel of Life series seen on Sky Angel Network. She's a weekly guest on EWTN Global Catholic Radio with Teresa Tomeo and numerous other media outlets, and she is also the co-host of the Catholic View for Women on EWTN. In 2009, the International Legatus Organization bestowed upon Janet the Cardinal John O'Connor Pro-Life Hall of Fame Award. Janet, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be with you.
Boy, you are busy.
Yes, I just got back from speaking at a conference in Auckland, New Zealand. It was the International Family Life Conference. And right after speaking to you, I'm off to Rome for a women's conference put on by the Pontifical Council for the Ladies. So, yeah, I kind of keep a little busy.
The work never ends, does it?
No, it never does.
Well, I wanted to talk with you about your new book. It's a very powerful book, and I'd like to start talking about the title and the subtitle, both of which I found very intriguing. The title, Recoil Abortion, and then the subtitle, which I think many might find very provocative, particularly those that are pro-abortion, Ending the Abortion Industry's Exploitation of Women. Could you comment on why you chose this title and subtitle?
Well, sure. Well, first of all, the recoil abortion has a dual meaning. The first meaning is the women who've had abortions, even if they've gone through healing, they remember the fact that they destroyed the life of that child. They recall the abortion. They recall different things that happened the day of the abortion. They will even recall the day of the abortion, like when that calendar date comes around every year. It's a very difficult day for them. They'll even recall the date that that child would have been born. And so it's a recall of their memory. They constantly recall, no matter how much healing they've gone through. And I know this by experience because of the women I work with the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. But the other thing about the title is I make a case in the book why we should demand a recall of the medical procedure called abortion, because it is damaging women both physically and psychologically. And if any product or medical procedure that was out there did what abortion does to women, it would already been recalled. They would have stopped doing it. And you might say to me, well, Janet, come on, do they really recall medical procedures? And I said, well, they really do, in fact. Like, for example, in the last century, lobotomies in the psychiatric field was a very popular procedure. They did it quite frequently for people with severe mental illness, and yet it was a very cruel operation where they literally destroyed part of their brains. Of course, as medical science progressed, they discovered other medications and therapies to deal with mental illness, and so therefore the American Psychiatric Association banned basically lobotomies from being done anymore. And so with abortion. In the book, I trace the physical damage. Women still die from abortion. I talk about the psychological damage, and I paint a case why we should demand a government recall of the procedure called abortion, because it doesn't benefit women. And like I said, any product that would do to them what this does, it would be long gone.
Interesting.
And the exploitation part really is, the abortion industry claims that it's, this is great, those buzzwords they use now, reproductive freedom, reproductive rights for women and health and all that. But in fact, the abortion industry really exploits women. First of all, it doesn't give them a freedom of choice. When they're coming into an abortion clinic or a Planned Parenthood clinic, the only thing they're selling them is an abortion. They give them the positive pregnancy test. They offer them a schedule their abortion. Now, that's not freedom of choice. Why aren't they saying to them, do you want to continue this pregnancy or terminate? They don't even use those words. It's only sell abortion, sell abortion. And then, in the abortion clinic, the day of the abortion, all they care about is cash, insurance, or Medicaid. That's all. How are they getting paid? And from the testimonies of the women in my book and on our website at silentnomore.com, you read the treatment they got in these abortion clinics. It's despicable. It doesn't follow any procedure that would have, like if you went in for ambulatory surgery. You just mirror them side by side. And what happens in abortion clinics is quite shocking, and I don't think people really realize that. The first time they meet the doctor is when they're on the table with their feet in the stirrups. That's when they meet the doctor. And when the procedure is over, they never see the doctor. It's not like he's visiting them in post-op. No. They're taken down the hall, sat in a recliner, giving some cookies and juice, and in an hour they're told to dress and leave. Yeah. Well, this is ridiculous. And they'll never see that doctor again unless they come back for a repeat abortion. When you think about ambulatory surgery, first of all, you see your doctor way in advance. He determines you have to have an operation. You go to the hospital days ahead, right? You get blood work, urine analysis, checks, x-ray. You meet with the anesthesiologist, and he tells you what's going to happen and what kind of anesthesia they're going to use. The day of the surgery, you show up at the hospital with a family member usually. Someone brings you there. You sign all kinds of paperwork. You meet again with the doctor and the anesthesiologist, before going into the operating room. And then when you come out, you're in recovery for a while. And then you get post-op instructions on discharge papers, right? And you get usually a prescription for pain meds and antibiotics and a follow-up visit to your doctor, right? Now, that's good medical care. Does that happen in an abortion clinic? Absolutely not. Yeah. So, again, these abortion clinics are really exploiting the women because they're just selling a product. Full abortion, period, amen. That's it.
Yeah. And it's very powerful, when you spread throughout the book, you have many testimonies from post-abortive women and even from some former abortion clinic workers. Right. And what was your motivation? Why did you put so many of those testimonies throughout the book?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to make the book just a collection of testimonies. I wanted the testimonies to have a purpose, all right? And so what I did was they're carefully placed in the different chapters. For example, there's a full chapter on rape and incest, And so in that chapter, those are women who were raped and aborted. And then I have other women who were raped and either made an adoption plan or raised a child. And you saw that the women who were raped and aborted were traumatized. They said they got over the rape, but not the abortion. And so I just used the stories, the real-life stories of experience, which trumps all the political rhetoric on this subject, and to show that listen to the voices of experience and see what they say about the procedure and what happened to them. And, as far as interviewing people who were former abortion clinic workers or doctors, well, they know better than anyone else. Like Dr. Lepatino, one of the people I quoted, he admits openly when I was doing abortions, yes, I did perforate a uterus here or there. I did nick a bowel here and there. I mean, these mess-ups happen all the time, every day in the abortion clinic. Matter of fact, just yesterday, there was another abortionist over in Detroit that also a woman left his clinic in an ambulance off to the hospital. And this same doctor has already killed other women and had ambulances come to his clinic, and he's still practicing. So, go figure. And so, I feel the testimonies of the women and medical experts are the things that help take people to put on a new glasses when they look at abortion. Look at it in a new perspective. Forget the political rhetoric. Let's just and see what abortion does. Listen to the voices of experience. And something, the pro-aborts have a hard time with this because they were the ones in the whole feminist movement that were yelling, listen to the voices of women. So now what are they going to do with these women? Oh, listen to the voices of some women, but not those women over there. You know what I mean? So it kind of puts the other side in a quandary. What are they going to do with, these are real stories. What are you going to say? Oh, that's not so? So I think the voices of experience trumps the rhetoric that's out there.
Yeah. Since you were talking about the feminist movement, I found that that topic that you covered in your book to be fascinating. And so can you talk a little bit about the feminist movement, what it was originally supposed to do for women, and in your view, how it got off track and the results of what has happened in terms of that when we talk about contraception and abortion.
Right. Well, the first thing is, I traced the early feminists of the turn of the last century, Susan B. Anthony and all those, and how they were pro-life. They were about helping women have certain rights of, like, the right to own property. I mean, people might scratch their heads and say, really? Women weren't allowed to own property? No. In the early 1900s, until the suffragette moment, we couldn't vote, we couldn't own property. So that's what it was about, kind of getting women some equal footing. And then, of course, in the 60s and 70s, the later feminists, they kind of hijacked the original feminists, and they said, well, now the women have to have sexual freedom, contraception, and abortion. This is what's good for them. And, of course, they were trying to fight for equal pay and positions in the workforce. Well, when you analyze, and I do this in the book, they really didn't do that much for women as far as equal pay. If you look side by side certain positions out there in the secular world, the men are still making more than the women, even in the top corporations and things, positions. So, while they haven't done, I would say, that great of a job in breaking the glass ceiling, so to speak. And then in this day and age, really, and I point this out in the book, so many of the women eventually, when they marry and decide to have a family, well, they're trying to do it all. They have to take care of everything at home, plus the kids, and a full-time job. So I don't think this is all very empowering for women. I mean, this whole concept of, oh, yeah, you can have your career and your family too. Well, yeah, and then at the end of the night, you're crashing into bed exhausted because of everything you're doing. And I also pointed out in the book how much just a stay-at-home mom would make if you had to hire people to do everything a stay-at-home mom does, from the laundry to the grocery shopping and cleaning the house. So the feminists of this century and just the 60s and 70s, they really didn't accomplish for women what they were trying to do, really, with all this birth control and abortion. It hasn't been empowering for them, certainly not. Yeah. If anything, abortion is empowering for men. It gets them off the hook. No responsibility. Have sex with as many women as you want. Don't worry about if you happen to get her pregnant. You just give her some money and tell her to take care of it, and you're out of there. So really, abortion has been empowering for men, not women.
Yeah. You have a very interesting quote in your book from Dr. Alveda King, where she said, quote, "Women never forget the babies they gave up, no matter how compelling the reasons seemed at the time," end quote. And can you talk about that quote in the context of the psychological damage abortion has on women, and contrast it to the pro-abortion supporters' view on this issue?
Yeah. Well, sure. What Alveda is referring to is, first of all, it's in a woman's nature, as we know, to have the child. And, when you are responsible, even if you were coerced or pushed into that abortion, at the end, the women still feel guilty, all right, because they said, I still acquiesced. I gave in, right? Mm. I didn't defend the life of my child. I didn't say, forget it, I'm not going to do this. And so, therefore, there's a guilt of that. I was directly responsible, no matter what the circumstances, because I didn't stand up for the life of my child. So there's a deep psychological wound there, because, the mother's nature is supposed to be nurturing. And something, Brett, the same thing is for men. Men also becomes to regret their abortion too, and their lost fatherhood, and usually it hits the men when they become a dad for the first time. Like, maybe they got a girl pregnant in high school and college and she told them to take care of it. Well, now maybe they're in their 30s and they're married now and having their first child, so they think it's their first child, and then boom, it hits them, flashback. Oh, this isn't my first child. And they start feeling the guilt too of they weren't a protector for that child. Again, for men, the natural nature is to be a protector of the family. And so what abortion does psychologically, it totally reverses and turns upside down what it is in our nature to be a man and to be a woman and to nurture and love a child. And so that's, I think, what Alveda is really referring to. It just goes against human nature. And as far as, psychological complications after abortion, they're enormous. Because of the psychological problems, many women end up with eating disorders. They abuse drugs and alcohol just to numb the pain that they feel, meaning not just physically, but psychologically. Some of them have nightmares. They'll talk about nightmares, difficulty sleeping. Many of them, they'll remember the sound of, like, they call it like the vacuum sound, which is the sound of that suction machine in the first trimester abortion. So the psychological damage to them is very deep. And that's why they spend such many of them, a long period of time, like their lives almost have to hit rock bottom before and they're not connecting all the things that are going wrong in their life to the abortion. And usually their life hits rock bottom before they begin to kind of come up and crawl out of that mess and seek help and some sort of healing. You know, and that's one of the motivations for the Women of the Sun and More Awareness campaign. Why do they speak out? Because they want to reach the other women that were like them in this dark abyss of, you know, not being able to forgive themselves and all these problems about destroying the life of a child. They want to let them know there's hope and there's healing.
And why doesn't the pro-abortion side acknowledge all of this data that exists about the real impact, the psychological impact that abortion has on women?
Well, very simply, they don't want to paint abortion in a bad light, no matter what. If you notice in the Herman Gosnell case recently this year, what did they do? They ignored it, right? You know, and they were trying to trump it out, like when it finally did break out, a little whispers in the news, like, oh, well, you know, that's a rare case. You know, the guys like him aren't really out there that much. And meanwhile, we in the pro-life movement can tell you there's plenty of Gosnells all over the country, you know?
Yes.
And so, you know, they you know, abortion is like the sacred cow, you know? You can't touch it. You can't say anything bad about it. They don't want to admit what's out there because the people who are involved in the abortion business, it's an industry, okay? It's a billion-dollar industry, and they don't want to paint it in a negative light no matter what, because it's all about, bottom line, profit. From Planned Parenthood to the, you know, independent abortion clinics all over the country, which, by the way, the good news is, you know, there used to be close to 2,500 of those. That was the figure back in 1992. And now there's less than 625 of those abortion clinics left in our country. And actually in 2013, this year, so far this year, now I'm talking to you, it's October of 2013, so far 44 more clinics have closed just this year. So, you know, you have a corrupt industry like abortion industry, sooner or later it's going to undo itself, as you can see.
Yeah. So at the end of your book, you have a call to action, which is let's recall abortion.
Right.
How can people help you in that call to action?
Well, they can go to their website, recoilabortion.com. First of all, that's where they can order the book if they'd like to get the book, and I'll personally autograph it for them. But then on that website, I have a petition they can sign. And I've already spoken to some of our pro-life members in Congress, and they said, Janet, if you can get a groundswell of support for your petition, you know, when people are saying, yes, let's recall this bad product, then they could probably use that to kind of get some hearings on abortion, on you know, the damages being done. Like, okay, let's get some medical experts, let's get women, let's do this. You know, just like almost have Congress investigate like they investigate other problems in society, that they could demand a investigation of abortion and the abortion industry. So it's my hope, you know, that people would go there, sign the petition. Of course, you know, if they read my book, because I wrote the book for two audiences, Brett. I wrote it for people who are already pro-life to give you good arguments so that you can discuss this issue with your circle of influence, people you come in contact with, your own family and friends who claim to be pro-choice. Just let them put on a new pair of glasses and see what is abortion really doing to men, women, and society. But then the other group I wrote the book for is people in the conflicted middle. We all know them out there, right?
Yes.
Good people in the churches. You know, if everyone who professed belief in Jesus Christ said they wouldn't tolerate abortion, we wouldn't have it. So there's people in the churches that cling to choice. The book is written also for them, to show them, because many people will say, well, you know, I wouldn't have an abortion. I wouldn't want my sister or my cousin to have one. But we really need to keep abortion available because women need abortion. The book is just kind of takes them down the road to show them abortion is damaging for women, it's bad for society, it's not helping us, and so therefore we don't need to have it available. We should get rid of the procedure altogether. So it's my hope that the book will, like I said, give those who are already pro-life new tools in their toolbox to debate the issue and discuss it and change hearts and minds. And then, you know, take those in the conflicted middle and push them into the pro-life camp. And by the way, once people become pro-life, you never get pro-lifers going to become from pro-life to pro-choice. They only go from pro-choice to pro-life. You notice that?
You know, I never thought about that, but I think you're absolutely right. Well, Janet,
it's just like, women are now standing up holding those signs. I regret my abortion. Men, I regret less fatherhood. You don't see them walking with baby stroller signs on them saying, I regret having this baby. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. Well, Janet, it's a very powerful book. I thank you for taking the time to pull all your experience together to write this book, which, as you said, can serve as a tool to help people understand the reality of abortion. And I wish you the best of luck. For our listeners, please go to that website, sign the petition. Let's get things moving. Janet, are there other websites where our subscribers can find out more about?
Yeah, the first, of course, to order the book and sign the petition, recoilabortion.com. But then if they want to read more of the testimonies of these women, complete testimonies, and I even have them in video form, they can go to silentnomore.com. There's over 1,000 testimonies in written form, close to over 200 in video form, and testimonies of men. There's healing resources there if they know someone who's had an abortion and how to get them to healing. There's a lot of information. So silentnomore.com is where they can really delve into this issue even further.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and appreciate all the work that you do for pro-life.
Thank you. Thanks
for having me. Take care, Janet.